Hello and welcome back to the Fastest podcast, where we cover everything from the greatest overtakes to the fastest pit stops. I'm your host Jazz, and I have with me today Dan and Pigeon. Hi guys.
Hey.
Hi.
So today we are going to be covering another fan-voted topic. A little bit of analysis on Interlagos as a track, why it's a fan favourite, why we always seem to get an incredible race there. Because I think if you go back over the years, it's always a special one. Every season it seems to deliver something, whether that be chaos or incredible wins, surprise podiums, whether it's always bringing something for us. So today, we're going to go over why we think it does so well on the calendar. So let's just jump right into it. Thoughts, guys?
A terrible track. No,
The worst.
It always brings something special. I think it's also because it is Brazil. They are heavily dedicated fans because of Senna, of course. It's just always something special, whether it be weather or great racing or surprise poles. It's always something. It's a pretty quick track as well, one of the shorter ones, but still very quick. And I think in overtakes it always is somewhere near the top. So yeah, I think if you, like I said in the preview last week, if you feel comfortable at Interlagos, you will have a great result, and that is true for I think most drivers.
I mean, we did see some evidence of that, I think, this previous race weekend. So your theory definitely paid off there, as we have seen it pay off forever, really. I mean, it's difficult now where we are, technically speaking, with F1 to always know exactly what you're going to get. And we've had a lot of races this year with kind of very limited overtaking. So it's always nice that we can come to Brazil and they can still overtake, they can still race. We saw a lot of it in both the sprint and the Grand Prix, as we always do. So Dan, what are your thoughts?
I love the track. It's not one of those where you get your DRS and you blast past everyone. It's one of those where, the DRS kind of gets you there or thereabouts, and you've actually got to work for the overtake. You've got to mainly do the overtake on the brakes, which is something you don't see in, certain tracks. Half the time they're just blasting past each other on the straight, and it's an easy overtake. You're just braking like normal, and you go down the main straight and you've got the center S's, and you can do alternate lines through there. You can switch up what you do defensively. You could be inside, outside, doesn't matter, because the way the track goes round, and then you're still fighting into the next DRS going down to turn 4, and even after turn 4 there's another long straight. There's no DRS, but into I think it's the horseshoe, and it's one of those tracks where you could pretty much. I know Sector 2 gets a bit tight and twisty, but there's always a chance you can make an overtake pretty much everywhere on the track. I think we saw a few, dive bombs, which is always good to see, and it's one of those where you don't pray for wet weather because it's going to be a good race in the wet and the dry. Exactly. You look forward to it, whether it's a wet or dry race, and a lot of races this season, you're always hoping for a little sprinkling of rain just to spice things up because, it's been predictable. This race was a bit unpredictable. There was some decisions which were debatable as well in the Grand Prix, and there's always in Brazil, there's always that little bit of controversy sometimes. You look back to when Hamilton in this race again, Hamilton, he clipped the back of Colapinto and he lost his front wing, and then he got a time penalty, which I'm not really sure I understand that one. So
did he get a time penalty?
He got a 5-second penalty for that one.
I think he was actually out the car by the time that came through.
Oh, so that's a 5-point grid drop then.
Yeah. I mean, I personally don't get that one. You look at the Piastri Antonelli Leclerc incident. Obviously, that has major repercussions. I don't think it's a slam dunk Piastri as people are making out. I think Antonelli could have been more over to the side. Yes, Piastri locked up and was out of control. Well, he was also left
That's
nowhere to
also
go by Antonelli.
that's
I
also a
think
great showcase of how good Interlagos is, because turn one, there's only like a really 2 lines in there, but you can go so wide in there. There's enough room to go 3 wide and still have room to actually race.
I do think.
Tell that to Charles Leclerc.
Oh yeah, he was. I mean, Leclerc was on the outside. You got Antonelli. He should have been in the middle of the track, and Piastri on the inside. And then if Piastri locks up and he's out of control, it's fully his fault. I do think he was squeezed a little bit. I do think primarily he was at fault. Okay, but I don't think it's a slam dunk. I think 10 seconds was harsh for that incident. When you look at Tsunoda completely out of control, hitting Stroll, and he got the same punishment. So there was no excuses for it. But
I mean, yeah, upon reflection, I do kind of agree with you. I was pretty slam dunk on Piastri for no specific reason, just looking at the different angles.
No reason at all.
No, I'm a serious journalist. But no, I mean, coming away from it, looking at the different angles, you can kind of see why there's so much debate, because who was ahead and at what point does that stop mattering, and the repercussions to Leclerc, who was really just in a different postcode to the rest of them, and it was only him whose race got ruined. So yeah, that was a tricky one. I think it was rightful that Oscar got that penalty. I just think maybe Antonelli should have been looked at as well, because ultimately between them they caused the end of Leclerc's race. How you divide up that responsibility is maybe debatable, but I think they both played a part in that, and they both finished the race. They both continued, and Leclerc didn't. So ultimately, there are lots of ways of looking at it, and I think that's what we kind of building on what you both said. Like, it's kind of what we enjoy about this circuit a lot, because it does provide these kind of incidents where you can really sink your teeth in and have a look. I mean, off the top of my head, a really good case study in Brazil is, of course, 2021, where it provided a lot of things for us to come away and analyze, you might say. And it's interesting to see, because of how wide you can go, what chaos can be created.
yeah, I mean, it's one of these tracks that's not DRS dependent, which the track we're going to next could possibly be created specifically for DRS. So it'll be interesting how Vegas performs in 26. But going back to Brazil, you don't need DRS to have a good race. You look long before DRS was brought in, 2007, 2008, 2009, 3 classic Brazilian Grand Prix, which, decided titles, as it should, in my opinion. But classic races, all 3 of them. And there was no DRS. So
I must disagree with you on that one, because the cars now, they really do need DRS. There's so much drag and other stuff on that car that just makes it impossible
they will
to
be
pass
different
on a
next
straight
year.
without DRS.
They will be different next year.
Yeah, we of course hope that we won't need it at all. But these cars, they really do need DRS to pass on a straight. It's not just slipstream where you can actually make the pass.
I suppose what we can say is that through the eras, Brazil always delivers. It doesn't matter
does.
what era we're in.
I think we also said it after the race. We said, like, yeah, Brazil was definitely one of the best of the season, if not the best, because it always does deliver.
Honestly, I've been trying to think since Brazil what else we had this year that was as good. I mean, Silverstone.
Yeah. But that was also, I think, a large part because of the rain. because rain creates chaos, and then every strategy goes out the window. You had Hulk taking the podium, so that all contributes to that, of course. Uh, but that all contributes to the race as a whole. Well, you had this year with Brazil being a sprint as well. You had no time for setup, so everyone has to learn quick. Then you have the sprint quality. Then you have sprint, which also saw pretty decent action. You had, of course, the turn 3 incidents, but it was still a pretty good sprint race with people coming to the front. I think it was a pretty intense battle for P7, P8. So even in a short race, it really does deliver, and I have no clue why they decided to delete it from next year's sprint calendar.
So that they could put one in Singapore.
Yeah, let's do 14 laps in just the same order.
Singapore was a great race this year.
Yeah, let's not touch that.
But
yeah.
Anyway.
Like Dan said, Brazil really doesn't need rain, but man, if it does, you get an amazing race. Because then the whole field is open. You can't just drive one or two lines. You can go in every single inch of that track, and you can find something.
I mean,
I touched the curb. Hey, Oscar.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Then
we
will
did
really
find some stuff in the rain.
A different line, like we saw last year with Alonso and Hamilton, who took a really alternative line through turn 12.
It's also as well interesting to see how experience pays off in these sorts of driver circuits. So, for example, like you say last year about Alonso and Hamilton, but also this year we saw in the sprint, Grand Prix was a bit disappointing for him, but in the sprint we saw Alonso really giving it a go in sort of after turn 1, and how his experience of that circuit really shone through. But also on that topic, we did see most of the rookies, unfortunately not Bortoletto, whose home race it was, but we did see most of the rookies perform extremely well here. Some of their, probably as a cohort, their best collective result, that they've had all season. So it's amazing to see ish. It's amazing to see how even experienced drivers who have been in the sport for such a long time are able to find all these little tips and tricks to use to their advantage. But also the new generation that are coming through are performing incredibly well there, because it is such a driver's circuit, and that's very promising.
Yeah,
I mean,
think it's also the fact. Oh, you go down.
What's not to like about the circuit? It's fast, it's twisty, it's what drivers want to drive. It's it's not a generic street circuit, for example. It's not, if you make a mistake, you'll get punished as well, because there's not as much runoff, for example, as in Abu Dhabi. And yeah, you make a mistake, you get punished. So yeah, it's a driver's track. It's a fan favorite. It's just an all-round brilliant, and it's got history as well, which is also very important. It's got Senna winning it in '91 with his car stuck in 6th gear. Just it's a brilliant track. I hope it never goes.
I think it's also the fact that it really doesn't have very many heavy braking zones. You have the twisty parts, and you have turn 1 where you really do have to brake, but you can still take a lot of speed into it. And it's not like a Monza where you have all straights and then you have 3 really heavy braking zones where you just have to push the crap out of your braking pedal. But Brazil really is the quick and still technical track. Like Dan said, you can go blow onto the straight and you can still leapfrog a driver into turn 1. If you compare that to Baku, then you have to brake about 100 meters before you're almost standing still, and then you have to turn 90 degrees to the left.
Yeah. I mean, it is It is a fascinating one. I mean, you can't say many tracks that don't at some point or another let us down. Everyone loves Monza, for example. And Monza this year, I should have taken my afternoon nap. Like it was so disappointing because it is one of those tracks where, yeah, it's always good, Monza magic, etc., etc. And then it kind of lets us down a little bit as fans. But Brazil just doesn't. It just doesn't. I think. And, you say about the history, you've got the passion of the fan base, you've got all the drivers love going to Brazil. Lewis, they love Lewis so much they made him a citizen. Like it's not something that you really see with any other circuit. Like in the same way. I just think it's kind of in a league of its own in regard to like how loved and just it's just perfect. It's just perfect.
And they get behind their drivers. They really
Yeah.
get behind their drivers.
Yeah.
It was nice to see, I think, after some of the situation that we saw in Mexico, shall I say, it was nice to see, no driver was really getting booed or anything.
I
We
don't
saw a
think
little.
you want to finish that sentence. I think Norris got a lot of booze.
He did get a little bit of booze, but there is a video circulating which explains that a little bit. But he's got a really big fan base in Brazil. Max has a huge fan base in Brazil, obviously through his family. Every driver gets support there. Obviously they were very, very gutted about Bortoleto crashing out, which was a huge shame for both him and the fans, the team. But there might have been a little bit of booing, but they still all get a really good reception.
Yeah.
I would say. I don't even know if it was they were booing Lando. I think they were cheering for Max. I don't think it was like a.
I think there was definitely some booing, but I do love the way that Norris handles it. He just calls him out on it and doesn't really engage further. So
He was on fire in that press conference.
yeah.
Did you see that journalist that tried to catch him? And he was like, "Why am I not allowed to have my own opinion? Excuse me." He went after it. I don't know.
Did not see that one.
You did not see it. It was a good quote actually. It was a good quote that he gave. But regardless, this is not about Lando Norris. This is about Brazil.
Yeah, I think
Title.
with how many surprise podium finishes we also had there, it we keep saying it always delivers, but it really does. You had Sainz in 2019, I believe, who after the race didn't really get onto the podium, but he did earn the P3 afterwards. You had Gasly racing Lewis Hamilton in a drag race to the line and getting it by I think a couple thousandths. Perez and Alonso in 2023. Those are all. I mean, Alonso had been on the podium quite a lot there, but so they get really really good finishes there, and it yeah.
Double Alpine last year.
Double Alpine in the wet, even Max from P17. Yeah.
The way Antonelli went for it, consistently P2 over the weekend.
Every session P2. That's impressive, even for a regular driver.
Yeah, him and Lando, I think they both where they ended the weekend, they'd been in those positions consistently. So driver's track really is a driver's track. If you like it, you get on with it. If you're not confident, you don't get on with it as much.
Yeah.
So
I think this year was the perfect example of that as well. Because Max in qualifying was not comfortable. And he went out in Q1.
First time ever. As in a driving on pace. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the max stats from this weekend were pretty crazy. But I mean, once they sort of adapted to what he wanted, generational drive, unreal stuff. Meanwhile, you've got his teammate who is evidently not comfortable in the car, who started ahead of him and finished dead last.
Yeah, I didn't understand
True
that.
testament. True testament. I mean, I don't want to be too harsh on Tsunoda purely because I don't know what they have or haven't done to that car. And I don't think he knows either. And I don't think they know either. Because whatever they did to Max's car compared to I don't know how to have an opinion, I think, on that second seat anymore. Because it's night and day.
Well, I saw some data of it. So in qualifying, they reverted Verstappen to Tsunoda's setup, which he couldn't drive either. And then
There you go.
yeah, but the fact is the fact that Verstappen can't drive with Tsunoda's setup, that's not the terrible thing. It's the fact that Tsunoda can't drive with Verstappen's setup, which is evidently quick. So Tsunoda can't drive Verstappen's setup, and they don't have anything else for him because that's what they've made. But I don't see why they didn't just also give Tsunoda the pit lane start with then the new engine. Just give them both something, and then maybe he could have gotten through the field. But now he started with no pace, and then he had a touch, and then I had to serve a 10-second penalty, and then Red Bull pulled the Ferrari at this point because they messed up the 10-second time penalty, so they had to go again. And then he was dead last, and yeah, couldn't really do anything. Meanwhile, his teammate battles through P3, so yeah.
Case in point why I just can't. I can't.
Yeah. Apparently, they put on the US GP floor that they had, so they reverted from an upgrade because the floor wasn't working, and then they basically replaced everything on Max's car throughout the night. So, but yeah, that for me is the perfect example of if you're not comfortable, you're not going to score points at Interlagos, and if you are going to shine very bright.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we could also talk about McLaren, but I think that's not Brazil specific. So,
I mean, I think Lando really has learned from last year. He did not put a foot wrong this or previous weekend, and you really have to applaud him for that.
I mean, Lando seems to be redeeming himself at tracks that he did pretty bad at last year comparatively. You know, we went for that Silverstone win this year. He didn't do bad last year, I don't think, in Silverstone, but he got the win.
P3. Yeah,
Brazil
messed up the pit stop.
Yeah,
I think he got P6 last year.
Yeah, Brazil.
Yeah.
You know, like he seems to be making a bit of a statement. I don't think purposefully, but it's good. It's good. It's kind of what he needs now for the rest of his season. Piastri comparatively had a real bad day. He had a real bad weekend, I think. F1 car versus puddle doesn't mix. F1 car versus curb, puddle curb doesn't mix. It was just not a good weekend for him. And then obviously that time penalty that he got for the Antonelli Leclerc fiasco, if you want to go back to the good old Alpine days.
I think we just lost all of our followers.
That's what I'm here to do. But no, it was just not a solid weekend. Comparatively, teammate led every session, topped every session, came home with a big old trophy that's bigger than him actually. So yeah, that's just another bit of a case study on what Brazil can do. Brazil gives, Brazil takes.
I think also the sprint turn 3 incident really needs to be studied because We don't see it often where 3 seasoned F1 drivers make a mistake in the same corner on the same lap without touching.
If
Like,
I see one more person saying it was Lando's fault,
I'm not saying that.
no, I'm not. I'm not saying you. I'm not
No,
saying
but
you.
like,
I'm saying like
three drivers make the same
Looking
mistake
at
in
you,
the same lap.
Antonelli.
Yeah, that's where our blame goes.
Also, let's not forget Verstappen almost lost it there as well, but
But he
managed
kept
to hold it.
it.
yeah, he loves doing that in Brazil though. So
Yeah. Whether it be at
Average day.
120 or 240 kilometers an hour, he just wants to save it.
Look, I think every F1 fan should agree that Brazil should be the final race of the season.
yes,
Yeah, I think the fans have earned it at this point. Also the local fans, because they are one of the best crowds of the season. With the history of motorsport in general, yeah, we really should be making that one the finisher. But sadly, I think we're going to be getting Vegas in a couple of years.
Yay!
Yay!
No, but I mean, it should. It's a classic, title decider. Anything can happen. You look 2007, you had Lewis Hamilton's gearbox issue. 2008, Hamilton won it on the last corner. 2009, the Barrichello puncture. Literally anything can happen. 2012, Vettel spun round, made his way through the field to where he needed to be. It should be. It has to be.
I think especially if it does go down to the wire, and you have both of your drivers starting, front row, you can really battle on Brazil. Abu Dhabi, not so much. You can't. I mean, you have 2 DRS zones, but you can't really pull a move like you can at Brazil.
yeah. I mean, it's got so much, just so many special characteristics to it, on and off track, and that is, what more can you ask for a final race of the season? I don't. Some people really hate Abu Dhabi. I'm not one of those people, but it's not, to me. It's not dynamic enough. It's not. It's not giving the.
It's
Most
awkward.
years it's not giving the drama that we want from a final race of the season.
Compared to Brazil, it's an average track.
Yeah, exactly.
If we're being honest, compared
to be
to
fair,
Brazil,
most tracks are average compared to Brazil. So
that is also very true.
But for a final track in the season, you want something that's dynamic and provides the drama and is also just off track special. Abu Dhabi is fine. It's a racetrack. It does what it needs to do. They've tried to improve racing there. Great. But it doesn't have, the history or the aura that Brazil has.
that's a good word.
Thank you. But that's just what I think on it. Now, question. Does Brazil, is it your favourite track? And if it's not, where does it rank for you?
For me, people say British bias, but it's Silverstone. That personally, for me, probably because I've been there, a few times, not just for F1, for a variety of sport. And I just personally love the track, love the layout. I've driven a Aston Martin on it. For me, it's always going to be number one. If I'm looking outside the UK and that sort of bias, I would say it's my favourite track.
I must say Interlagos definitely my favorite. Could be just because Max is going there well there, but no, I mean, look at just this year. We had amazing strategy calls, which we haven't seen most of the year. And then I think P6 until P12 finished within like 5 seconds of one another.
It was desperately close.
It was scrappy. It was people fighting for every single position they could with every fiber of their being. So
Yeah.
and that is not just this year. It is every single year. If you look at 2019 with the restarts, both Red Bulls jumping one position outside the Senna S's. Uh, I can name 10 more of those amazing overtakes, but it really does always have something special. If it is on the track, off the track, yeah, you don't get that anywhere else. I mean, you get some parts of that at several tracks in the season, but no other track has it all. So yeah, Interlagos definitely top for me. Yeah,
It's up there for me. It's
it's
very
up
high up
there.
there. No, it's very high up there. I it's in my top three. My top three, I would say, is pretty interchangeable. I like Dan. I have to say, Silverstone is just she's special to me. For many reasons. Worked. We've got a done work there. Me and Dan went to we covered the F4. Like it's just a great place to be. You can't be at Silverstone and be that upset. Like it's just good, you know. For the most part. I also Monza is also just deeply personally special to me.
Do you put
But
it
no,
over Brazil?
that's the thing. I don't think I do anymore. I think maybe when I was a baby F1 fan, I think I probably did. But now, seasoned, I think Brazil's probably number 2 for me as well.
Yeah.
I think the fact that us three are all basically agreeing on something says enough.
We usually agree. It's Dogra who throws some chaos in the mix. So
I
If
think
we ask
Gosnell's
Dogra what
favourite
his
would be Qatar.
yeah, which is considered to be one of the worst tracks, by the way.
I quite like Qatar, not as much as Dogra does, but it's all right.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a MotoGP track, isn't it?
can't
I
really.
didn't say it's an F1 track. I just said.
I mean,
no,
yeah,
like
you can call it an F1 track if you want, but it's not. It's not why it was built.
it's a nice bit of road. That's the way I choose to look at it.
This is like describing a highway. Yeah, it's a nice bit of road. I can cruise on it a little bit. That's some nice
Quite.
up and down. Actually, Qatar is just really flat, so yeah.
I just quite like the fact that just bang smack in the middle of the desert, they've just got this absolute insane bit of kit just sat there waiting.
I mean, if there were any places you could overtake, it would be a good track, but
we've had some decent
it's got
races
a really,
in there, have we
really,
not?
really long straight, but yeah, you can't overtake, so doesn't matter, does it?
there's been a couple of times you can overtake, but I mean, throughout an entire race, for example, what we saw in Brazil, there was overtaking up and down the field on multiple laps. In Qatar, you might get one every 7-8 laps.
And then forced pit stops, so.
Yeah.
You got the Leclerc Hamilton, I think it was it last year or the year before?
Yeah, they went side by side, yeah.
Yeah, but
There are moments.
Yeah, but
it wouldn't be my least. It wouldn't be my worst track on the calendar. Don't get me wrong. But when you're comparing it to the likes of Brazil, Monza, Silverstone, it doesn't even compete.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure we can reevaluate this in a lot more detail in the next few weeks anyway. There will be some discussion to be had about Qatar as we approach the end of the season.
I mean, we still have Las
Moment
Vegas,
of silence.
so.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll get Vegas out the way, and then we'll talk a little bit more about Qatar and why we should or should not race there.
Will struggle a bit more at Vegas than other circuits.
I'm literally waking up at 4 a.m. to get upset. That's literally what's...
Doesn't matter. If Norris finishes 8th and Piastri finishes 9th, it's a good day for Norris.
Yeah.
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 Also, I read that if Norris outscores Verstappen, he's officially out of contention. So it wasn't going to happen anyways anymore, but still.
I feel he was out of contention probably after he decided to go brainless against Russell in Barcelona. That was for me when I was like, nah, not this year.
Yeah, that was. We moved on from that as a society far too quickly. That was crazy, actually.
Yeah.
He doesn't do that. He's got, I don't know what, an extra 10 points.
It really doesn't matter because he had some bad races this season. Even if you take away
Hungary.
Spain, he really had some bad races.
Hungary, Bahrain, for examples, yeah.
So yeah, I think we've covered everything Brazil in
Yeah.
this one.
I think that's everything Brazil. We will be back, I'm sure, over the weekend with even more
Probably a
yapping.
trivia night.
Probably a trivia night. So set a reminder in your calendars for some drawings of Qatar. Between now and then, you can keep it up to date with us on our social media. So you can follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and the platform formerly known as Twitter. For all your updates, you could also have a look on our website where we've got articles coming out as well, some racing analysis, always lots going on to tide us all over in the gap now until we get to Vegas. Thank you so much for watching. And as I say, tune in at some point this weekend for a bit more trivia night. We love trivia night.
Qatar trivia.
Qatar trivia. There will
That's
be.
what we're doing for.
I'm banning Qatar trivia, and Dogger will still find a way to draw it. But on that note, thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.
Bye bye.